Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you happen to find yourself. My name is Carmen Mazzara, and I serve as Executive Director of the Coalition for American Public Diplomacy and Leadership, or as we call it, CAPDL. As you may know, the coalition brings together the whole BridgeUSA community, all the way from international representatives and alumni through sponsors, host families, host businesses, chambers of commerce, so many different parts of this wonderful program that we have. And we unite everyone around education and best practices sharing, like we're going to do today, and then telling the story about the immense power of these programs, both for U.S. interests as well as on participants who get to engage in this endeavor. We are so pleased to see so many members here with us today. And as a special treat, we've opened this session up to non-members. And we do hope that those of you who are joining us for the first of your CAPDL experiences will come into the CAPDL community and be able to share and engage with all of the great work that we're doing. So this is just a small taste of the great work that we get up to here at CAPDL. And I do invite you, if you have any questions, we're having a webinar on introducing CAPDL membership coming up in just a few days. And I invite you to join us here. That's the link in the chat. And once you join CAPDL, and that is actually a very easy process, and I'll put that link in as well, you would have access to lots of different resources, other sessions and webinars, as well as the chance to really have us share and celebrate the good work that you get up to, as well as the tremendous power that you are able to share through BridgeUSA. So I do hope those of you who aren't yet in the CAPDL family will come on in. And to those of you who are, it's so great to see you. And I look forward to seeing you at lots of our upcoming events. And I'll do a quick commercial for those again at the end. But for now, I'm very excited for this session that's getting us ready for the 2025 summer work travel season. We know that summer work travel is the largest of the 13 BridgeUSA programs and really lets lots of different communities across the US engage with people from all over the world. And so we have three excellent speakers here today to share their perspectives in how they welcome BridgeUSA participants, how they've been BridgeUSA participants, and all the great work that this program delivers. So today we have Ketevan Chincharadze, and hopefully I didn't, oh, hey, I was close, who is a foreign policy analyst and researcher. She specializes in great power competition and security in Eastern Europe. Her profession now works on everything from developing content for FYI, which is the Republic of Georgia's first women-led analytical platform, and she's a research fellow at a think tank in Poland. But before all of that, she was a summer work travel participant for many years on Martha's Vineyard, coming to us from Bulgaria. And we're excited to have her contribute her perspective from that lens. She earned a graduate degree in international security from the Joseph Corbell School at the University of Denver and a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from the American University in Bulgaria. We're also joined by Debbie Karu, who is the general manager of Casino Pier Amusement Park in New Jersey, where she's been part of the excitement for over 25 years. She describes her career like a roller coaster, which I think is hilarious, full of highs and lows and twists and turns, but she luckily says she wouldn't have it any other way. Originally from Ireland, Debbie relocated to the United States and feels like that gives her such a special perspective on the participants that she's able to welcome to Casino Pier. And finally, Collin Tefft is the talent partnership manager for Xanterra Travel Collection, where he oversees the internship, externship, and international training programs across multiple national park properties. He is originally from Minnesota, but says he moved to Yellowstone after graduating from Minnesota State and just loved it so much that he stayed and is now able to work with universities and government agencies and cultural exchange organizations to create some of those wonderful and meaningful employment opportunities. So as you can see, we have such a rich set of perspectives to talk to us about getting ready for the summer 2025 work and travel program. As we go through, I have a series of questions I'm going to ask our panelists before I open it up for you all to ask your questions. So start thinking now, and if there's something you just desperately want to ask as we go, please feel free to put that in the chat and we will make sure to touch on things as best we can. So let's jump in and get underway. Colin, I'm going to start with you. How are you preparing to welcome BridgeUSA participants for this summer? And are there any opportunities and challenges that you're expecting for this year as relates to BridgeUSA?
Yeah, of course. Well, first, I'd like to just say thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to get to speak in front of all of you today. Where to start? I think, our preparation for welcoming Bridge students starts the previous year. So I think for 2025, we started back in September of 2024, just preparing numbers and, getting feedback from our students who were leaving our park properties. This is just with different surveys that we send out. We want to see their pictures, see what they did for their summer, and then get feedback on, how well, they were prepared for their upcoming season. Kind of more on the front side and things that we are doing actively right now is we are hosting some what we call campfire events. These are actually for all of our incoming employees. We get the luxury of it's not just our bridge students that are traveling really far to come to our national parks. A lot of our domestic staff is also traveling. They're moving to a new place. They're being welcomed into our housing. So a lot of our orientations and onboarding for bridge students is very similar to our domestic staff as well. I think those campfire events are great ways. They're big Zoom calls. We have sometimes we have hundreds, other times they're smaller groups, and then we do bridge specific campfire events as well, just to allow students to ask questions on what they need to prepare, what their housing is going to be like, all things that we've covered with them through the interview process and from day one. But just in case they have extra questions, moving that far to a place that has snow or is super high in elevation or is some of the most diverse landscapes in the United States, people are bound to have questions. So just allowing those opportunities for those students to ask as many questions to our teams as possible. One of the main challenges we're facing, obviously there's the visa delays and the changing of start dates. That's, always going to be a challenge with the BridgeUSA program. But one specific problem we're facing this year is, I'm sure you've seen the National Park Service has been in the news a little more frequently, and so getting the word out to our participants and to our future employees that the national parks, as far as Xanterra is concerned, is that we are going to be operating as usual. We are going to be fully open. We've received a lot of hesitancy from future employees, asking, hey, is my job still intact? And so really getting that messaging out that we are fully operational and, excited to have them this summer.
Thank you. Debbie, how about you? How are you getting ready?
Well, right now, a lot of our students are communicating with us about their visa approvals. So we have just launched our employee website for our J1 students. So we keep this private website that prepares our employees for everything they need coming here to the US. So it's, what our town of Seaside Heights is like. It's a small resort town. So we tell them, where the bigger exciting town is, how you can get there, how where you want to shop. All of that is on our website. They get all the information of before they leave, what they need to pack to bring here, what to expect when they arrive here, what their work experience is going to be like. We show them like a little bit about the different departments, who they're going to be working with. We have a whole page then. Right now, we're working on all of our employee activities for the year. And what we have confirmed, we put on there. What we're still deciding, we'll say these events may come to be determined. What else are we putting on there? Our housing information. Every year, we're always doing updates to housing. So that's what always delays launching the website. But now we're finishing a lot of work on that. So we'll post pictures of every house. So that they know what it looks like from the outside, from the inside, because what we've learned is that in the past, many years ago, they really didn't know what they were coming into. They were kind of blind, and we've learned that the more information we give them, the better. And I really think that helps with their transition of traveling from home to come here, because now they know what to expect and they feel more comfortable with that. And just like Collin said as well, we survey our students. We want to get feedback from them. What did we do last year that really worked? Should we keep doing that? what didn't work that we'll never do again, because that really helps us grow and be better every year. We also will, right now, we send out, we don't do it through our website, but we'll send out like Google Forms and say, are you traveling with anybody? Who are your roommates? Who would you like to live with? Do you want to live with different countries? Do you not? Do you want to live in a girls only house? Do you want to live co-ed? Because we've learned that those are our curveballs once our students arrive here. We plan where they're going to go live, and then we have to keep switching everybody around to appease them. But then once the last of our arrivals come in June, we can't facilitate them because now we don't have extra places to move them to. So we're trying to work through that as well. And what else? Let's see. Our orientation, we just let them know right now that we're giving them so much information on the website. We don't want to keep everything virtual. We want to have that personal touch. So during COVID, we were doing our onboarding online, and they would do it before they got here. But now we want to get back to meeting them and having, face-to-face conversations and communication. So we've actually brought our onboarding to be in person. So when our students come, we kind of have it broken down. They come for a international student orientation, and then it gets broken outside of that to a company orientation where all of our domestic employees attend as well, not just, the J1 students.
That's great. And I do want to explore the process of orientation a little bit more in a second. But Debbie, I'm curious, for something like the website, how much staff time does that take? And generally, who is responsible for something like that?
For creating the website?
And keeping it updated?
We built it last year, so it was really a winter project, and it was a lot of work. We launched it, a lot later last year than we thought. And then throughout the season, we were fine tuning it. We had an issue with one apartment and it wasn't ready until June. So we didn't get to put those pictures that the students got to see. So we just try to keep up and update it. Any type of changes, because whatever we're doing is just to make us look better. So we always want to communicate that to our students, especially for our housing, because before COVID, our housing was really, really deteriorating. Our company wasn't really putting the money in towards that. And then, based on employee feedback, they saw, how bad it was, pretty much, like it wasn't being a respectful place. We're telling our employees, we love you, thank you for being here, but not where they're living. And we were charging them for it. So if I'm not going to stay there, our students are not going to stay there. So we started flipping houses. And that's one of the main reasons a lot of the students want to come to us in our town, because a lot of the other houses are older. And now we're showing like we have the better places to live, which gives us an edge on our local competition too.
Nice. So it was a lot of work, but then it sounds like it's reduced some work after the initial investment.
Yeah. This year, it was just easier to fine tune whatever changes that we had made. But our feedback from our employees overall was pretty good. Only though about 75% of them did log in to access the website. There was that small percentage that didn't until they arrived here, because we would say, hey, what happened? You didn't do this. So this year we're taking a different approach to make sure that they're all logging in and doing it.
Makes sense. So let's talk about getting ready. And Ketevan, I'm curious, what was beneficial for you to know as you began as a summer work travel placement? And what do you wish your hosts had shared with you before you left?
Well, those are great questions. And what Debbie and Collin talked about, those were music to my ears, because I wanted to say, I wish I had a handout or a website with all these expectations, because we really had no idea what we were stepping into. I think I was in a great position because a lot of my friends from college had done this and they kind of coached me and told me, but still, it was totally different from what I had imagined and what it turned out to be. And I often remember that when I heard that I was going to Martha's Vineyard, I was like, oh my God, this is an island. It's going to be so cool. And I took 9 pairs of shoes for the beach. And it turned out that it was freezing cold in May and June, and I was so busy in July and August working that I was not probably at the beach 9 times total. So it was a total mismatch between my expectations and the reality. I wish I had a better idea of how the system worked in general, because I come from Eastern Europe. A lot of J1 students come from Eastern Europe. And there's no such thing as hourly pay, social security, overtime, this kind of things. We did not know how to get our paychecks, how to cash our paychecks. And this kind of little details are very important, because the system in the United States is drastically different from where I come from. Nobody gets paid hourly. Almost everything is salary based. Tips also are very important part to know how you get them, because I spent a lot of time in customer service. So I understand that that's not the case for every J1 student, but in general, having a great understanding how the system works is very helpful. I also wish I had known about the social security number earlier. I knew that I was going to do that, but in many cases, it takes over a month to get a social security number, which means that you're not going to get paid for that duration. And a lot of J1 students bring only $500 with them, because when you're 18, that sounds like a lot of money. But for an average US citizen, probably it's not as much. And not getting paid for a month or two while you only have $500 might not be easy. So I think it is very important to tell students to have extra pocket money, but if it's not possible for various reasons, maybe investigate in advance how to accelerate the process of getting social security. I also would like my employers to kind of give me this overview how the work environment works and what it constitutes to be a good employee, like what characteristics you need to display to be successful in this job and make enough money to travel around the United States and have fun. I wish I did get that a little bit, but it would have been nice to have this orientation like Debbie mentioned. I never had that, and I am very happy to hear that employers are now doing this, because we come from drastically different cultures. We've seen a lot of Hollywood movies, but what we experience is totally different than what we see on the screen. So this kind of honest conversations are very helpful. And I'd like to give one brief example. When I started working at a coffee shop, a lot of people thought I was rude and not respectful, because whatever I would say, I would never say the word please. Because in my culture, you only say the word please if you're begging someone to do it something. And as far as your tone is nice, it's considered that you're respectful. So I really appreciated when one of my friends pulled me aside and told me that you're a very nice girl, you're doing everything right. Just try using the word please every time you ask somebody to do something. And my life changed from there. So this kind of little things that are culture specific and just being aware of this is really, really helpful.
That's a great example, particularly about the need for just ongoing cultural coaching when you may not even realize there's differences there. Collin, I'm curious for you, especially with so many parks. When do you hold orientation and what kinds of things do you include? Is it like what Debbie shares? Is it like the cultural pieces Ketevan was asking for? How do you go about the orientation process?
Yeah, and this is my favorite thing to say, is it's a little unique for each one of our parks, just because of the environment of each park is so different. But typically, to Debbie's point, we try to get everything up front as much as we can from, even before orientation, just having them completely prepared. But then again, as I said, we have the benefit that, all of our domestic staff is also coming to this new place for the first time. So there's a lot of people that, aren't used to the housing, or they need kind of that orientation. It's not just the bridge students. That is going to be the biggest one, is kind of getting students and employees used to our housing rules and to, you know, where the employee dining room is and where they can get their meals, where they can go to work out. So just kind of adapting them to the community, especially because they are in such remote places. You know, each one is so unique. You know, sometimes we have to warn students that there might be a 3,000-pound bison walking by your dormitory. So check the doors before you open them. You know, so a lot of it is safety based and just making sure that they understand the rules of our community as well as the rules of the national parks. You know, and then from our orientation, it's typically either a 1 to 2 day process, and then students are going through about a 3 to 10 day on-the-job training where they're working very closely with their managers, kind of understanding the ins and outs, understanding where everything is located within our kitchens and our retail shops and our hotels and lodges. And then, you know, kind of going over the emergency contact and kind of the process of, you know, if they have any issues, of where to go to HR and where to, you know, when to notify their sponsor, things like that. And then, you know, above all else, just being a very welcoming community. We have a lot of different events going on in all of our different national parks, nonstop, almost every single night. And so kind of, you know, offering an invite to them to come to the event that's going on that night, whether it's volleyball or pickleball or a craft night or a movie night, just getting them involved from the get-go is really important to us.
And I love that focus on invitation, because sometimes just telling them isn't enough, right? You have to actively invite them to come. And a bison walking by is probably not everybody's orientation session. Debbie, I'm curious for you, how do you prepare your US staff to work with international participants, particularly noting some of the cultural differences that Ketevan talked about?
So we talk with them. We'll go over tone and pace, how culturally everybody is different.
I think the results is coming, right?
And we include that in our company orientation, you know, to just go over how, like, New Jersey, we're fast-paced talkers, and people are always asking us to, you know, slow down. Whereas, you know, people from the South, they kind of, you know, they talk a little slower. So we discussed that with them, how your inflection on words could be something different, kind of like how Ketevan said, you know, the word please to her was not something that she used in her culture. We'll go over body language. Some cultures, guests like to be very close to you, and it's about politely taking that step back and whoa, you know, get out of my face. But how we're all just kind of different like that. Some people are very touchy-feely, you know, like coworkers may be that way, that they always have to put their hands on you, and, you know, how to deal with that. We'll also go over what's big for us in our guest service is verbal language. We will script our ride operators and cashiers on what to say, because you could tell a guest that they are too big to ride a ride, but that would mean that comes off wrong when you're really trying to tell them you were too tall. Like, this is a kiddie ride and you exceed the maximum height. If you say too big, which is what I used to say in Ireland, that's wrong. You're telling somebody they're too big. And we never want to say that to a guest. We also cover hygiene, about, you know, showering, using deodorant. Again, when I lived in Ireland, only when I played sports did I wear deodorant. It wasn't hot and humid. It does not get humid in Ireland, and it doesn't in a lot of countries. So deodorant is not an always, like, an everyday part of life. And so here in the US, it is. You need it. And so we actually give our J1 students, when they arrive, a big welcome packet. And in there as well is also, you know, little mini deodorant, just to get them started, since, you know, some of them may not routinely use it.
And is there an example you have of a miscommunication maybe between US staff and some international participants, and how you all dealt with it?
Yeah, so my too big, too tall incident was, it was a mom, and she had just given birth to a baby. And she was riding a ride with her toddler, not the newborn baby. And she went to go ride a kiddie ride that had a maximum height, meaning adults can't ride it. It's only for children. And she squeezed into the car, And an operator came over and said, "You were too big to ride." And the mom cried because she came up and said, "Oh my God, I just had a baby and your operator basically called me fat." And so we got lucky with this guest. They were willing to listen. And, I explained what had gone wrong and that the wrong word was used, and that moving forward, we would train our employees the correct way. And we have. We had a meeting with our employees the very next day to discuss that incident. And ever since then, we always tell them, you're going to tell somebody they are too tall. You will never use the words they are too big. So we have lots of learning lessons we have encountered. And so we really train to do the right thing from what we've learned by doing the wrong thing.
I like that it's a constant feedback loop too, to make sure it always gets better.
It really is. It's, every week could be something new. You never know what you're going to get, but we're always willing to adjust because maybe we didn't understand a guest perspective. So we're always learning from that.
That's great. And friends, we're going to open up for Q&A in just a little bit, but I have a few more for our panelists. So you can start typing now if you like, or send them directly to me if you wish. Collin, I'm curious, you talked about how everybody's coming from somewhere else. And how do you balance all of the things that you need to impart to new hires with some of these cultural competency pieces and some of the elements that are distinct for J1 participants specifically?
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that? How do I what?
How do you balance all the things that you have to convey to staff between the things that might be related to the J1 process or the cultural competency process and just basic running of day-to-day life?
Yeah, good question. So I think to start, it is just preparation on our end. We have created in the last year and a half plenty of documents, FAQs, things that our managers and our employees can use as resources to kind of better handle different situations that can arise surrounding the Bridge program. Standardizing our training for our managers and our talent team so that each Bridge student across all of our properties is ultimately getting the same training and the same feedback as they go throughout our processes. I think that's been a big help for us, kind of balancing all of the different things that come up throughout the season. Really just being prepared from the ground up, from line level all the way up to the general manager, kind of knowing the programs, knowing what to do if situations arise, and then kind of doing the same for those students as well.
Great. So BridgeUSA to me is distinct in that it combines the work element and the cultural exchange piece. And so, Ketevan, for you, how do the cultural exchange elements of BridgeUSA change your thinking about the US, other than it not being a Hollywood movie?
It was one of the greatest experiences of my life, truly. And there's a reason why I did it 4 times. And I was really proud of myself to see how much I've progressed, because I did not know how to hold a knife. And on my last summer, I was a kitchen manager at a 5-star restaurant where we would host Taylor Swift, the Obamas, and all these people. So I think this program taught me hard work. I don't think in Eastern Europe we work very hard. And for me to see what it actually takes to be on your feet more than 8 hours a day, really being invested in your work, really helped me understand the working culture in the United States and why this country is so successful. I really got an insight into this. And a lot of times when my friends told me, "Oh, I'm tired," I was like, my response was always like, "You don't know what hard work is." I come from a very laid back culture, and the summer work and travel really enabled me to see how people work in the United States. This drastic difference between grabbing a chair every time you have extra 5 minutes to sit down, and between always doing something to stand out, to emerge the hard worker, was a big difference that I saw, that I use it in my career, honestly. I have never worked in the kitchen after that, but today what I work, work and travel taught me how to be persistent. I often compare my kitchen experience to army. I thought I was in the army serving because it has so strict rules, and it was just such a big experience that transformed an 18-year-old teenager into this adult who now can budget, plan, knows to how to work hard. I also built a lot of lasting relationships that I am proud of. I still keep in touch with my former employers, landlords. I've sent other J1 students to them. So this is like a big community that I built, and I learned resilience, also negotiations that are so essential in my field, the day-to-day customer service interactions, communication with my manager. This kind of small things really set me up for success in my field, because I do international relations, and I think there's no better place to do international relations than work and travel when you're 18.
Love it. Your check is in the mail for the commercial. No. So Debbie, I'm curious, how do you decide what kinds of cultural activities to do with participants? And can you talk a little bit about the resources that it takes so that we can share some best practices around that piece?
Okay. So sometimes we'll do events, based on past events that we've done that worked really well with our students. Again, it goes back to employee surveys and feedback on what did they really enjoy. We host the Casino Pier Olympics, and it is every department comes out and they compete for gold, silver, and bronze. And we turn our amusement park into a giant obstacle course. And everyone loves a competition. So everyone comes out. It's one of our most attended employee events. So we have done this for many years. What gets a little hard with that and its planning is that our water park employees can't always attend. Depending on when we do it, they may send a team up because we do it in the morning before our amusement park opens. So sometimes they can send a team and sometimes they can't. When they can't, now our water park hosts that event as well. So now we kind of get to do it twice. And those that couldn't do it on that day, they can go then, it's typically like a month later, they go down to the water park and they do completely different activities. But just when we look back at the pictures and videos of that event to see all of our Americans and all of our students or J1 students together, it's just so meaningful to see like the connections that they got. And this competition brings out personalities in your employees you didn't know they had. And it's such a great bonding experience then. There are some employees that are so quiet, and then you put them into a competition and their personality just shines. And you're like, wow, you are not who I thought you were. So I really love doing that. We try and do a lot so that all of our employees come together. We put a lot of time into it. And one of the things that we always need for that is to make sure every department is willing to be on board with us and not be, we can't do that. I don't want to send my employees that day because Games has a stock delivery coming. We need them to understand the importance of getting everybody together. So that's why, like with the water park, we understand the operating times kind of hinder the gathering. So that's why we also do one in the water park a month later. But we really need every department on board and encouraging their employees to attend. Our arcade was always the hardest to get in attendance. And then finally we got them into the Olympics one year. And then that was it. Word just spread like how awesome this is. And, they return every year. What else? Let me look at my notes to see what I have. We also need funding because, like I said, we put a lot of time into this. So, if our company was to turn around and say, we need to cut funding somewhere, where are we cutting it? This is not the place because, this really oversees employee morale and the relationships we're building. It's the reason our seasoned employees, American or international, return every year because of their work experience with us. So we always just need, our company to stand behind the money they're going to put towards, all these events that we're going to do. So far we've been good with that.
Thank you. Collin, how about you? How do you decide what to do with participants? And can you talk a little bit about the human and other resources needed?
Yeah, of course. And this is one of my favorite questions. I'll start with a story. So I was working in Yellowstone National Park during COVID. So during 2020, and unfortunately, we weren't able to have any international students that summer because of the pandemic. And, as a hotel manager, despite all of the rules and regulations passed down while working on federal land, with masking and distancing and only allowing 2 people per room, despite all of the different challenges we faced, the number one question I got asked were, when are our international students going to come back? I think that's just a testament to, the integral part of our communities that they play. They bring a lot of their culture and we share a lot of our culture, and they really bring up our communities at all of our national parks. As far as the different activities that we do, it's really easy for us to plan these activities as we are in the national parks. We have tons of different national monuments or Grand Canyons or Lake Yellowstones, very easy to get students to and from these different points of interest. We do a lot of different things like rodeos, in Cody for the students in Yellowstone. There's a lot of local music festivals that students can go to, many different things that they can do. And then since we are so remote and we are so community focused, a lot of our national parks have different recreation programs that aren't just for the Bridge students, but they're for all of our staff. And they put on all sorts of different activities. That's kind of what I touched on earlier, where they're putting on karaoke nights, movie nights, tournaments. They'll do park-wide sporting tournaments where the different locations will face off against one another. So again, inviting the students to participate in that. A lot of times we'll do Christmas in August. So everyone will get the tree decorated, put on Santa hats. We'll have kind of a Christmas feast in our employee dining rooms, just to kind of, bring the joy of Christmas into the summertime and to those students who wouldn't be here in the winter. As far as how we organize them, it comes down to a lot of times we have program managers or a person on our HR teams that will kind of take control of the Bridge programs. Typically, they're in charge of organizing a lot of these events and putting them on, as far as, using their staff's time and the creativity, the transportation that it takes to get to and from these places, the food and community partnerships along the way as well.
Excellent. I love that. Christmas in August in Yellowstone must be just fascinating to see the pictures of. Well, all right, friends, I invite you, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. As I said, you can send them directly to me or post them for everyone to see. And for those who submitted questions ahead of time, we do have some as everybody types. In particular, folks were curious, Collin, this one is for you and Debbie. How has your organization changed its preparatory method as the generations have changed?
I can go. You want?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
I wasn't sure who was going.
Yeah.
So I love technology. I embrace technology, and we were not using that. And we had fallen into the things are this way because that's the way they've always been. And so our procedures were never being updated. So once I began overseeing our J1 student hiring, that's when I realized how archaic our system was, that students really were coming into the unknown. And I didn't want that. I wouldn't want that for myself, for my children. So we had to change that approach. Again, that website I created prepares them. They're not coming in blind. They're getting pictures of the whole town of Seaside. They get a map of where everything is, where they're going to go grocery shopping, where the laundromat is, where the bank is. We tell them we're going to help you create a bank. Here are the steps. Here's what's going to happen with Social Security. We're going to bring you. And, we state that whole process. But before, they never really knew anything. And sometimes I don't even know they knew how to get to where we were because a lot of times they weren't given their housing address ahead of time, whereas now we do that. And our new change now this year is hopefully, we started it last year, but we didn't have it at 100%. But this year, if they don't know their roommates, we want them all to be in contact with each other before they get here. So they're already, having a conversation and building a relationship before they get here. So that's one experience that we definitely want to change for them. But we're always changing based on feedback of what worked and what didn't. We're always willing to change it so that the more communication we're putting out there, the better, that there's no unsurprising things, coming up when the student gets here. They know our expectations, what we expect from them. And, so far that has been really, really good for us.
Collin, how about you?
Yeah, I would say kind of echo Debbie. A lot of it is fluid, it's constantly changing with each and every year and all of the different feedback that we get. One of the main changes that I've noticed over the last couple of years is going from very long lists and paragraphs of writing that we can send as much information to the Bridge students as we'd like. How many of us are reading very long, thorough documents, so kind of changing the optics of that and kind of getting it more visually pleasing, saying, here's your packing list, here's your main items that you need to bring in kind of a vibrant PDF. And then our marketing team has done a really great job at creating these all-encompassing videos of our national parks. And it's kind of everything to expect with all of the stunning visuals of the national park, as well as the dormitories and the employee dining rooms. So sending that to the students before they even apply to us, or they're still looking for their placement, has been a huge help. It really lets them understand what we are in the national parks, and really understand that remoteness. That's something we have to stress. Sometimes the closest Walmart can be an hour and a half away. So really just thinking of new and creative ways to kind of get all of these details in a less boring fashion as an event or an arrival planner that's just several paragraphs. That's no fun. So really changing with the times there.
Ketevan, you're our resident millennial Gen Zer. What do you think would be helpful in this respect? Did I get cut off? Ketevan, you're our resident millennial Gen Z. What would be helpful to you?
Well, I just realized I was a work and travel student almost 10 years ago, and a lot of things have changed. So I think Debbie and Collin have already touched on the most up-to-date things. So I might not have many things to add.
Excellent. We're almost at time, friends. So if you do have a question, now's your time to get it in there. I have one last one for all three of our panelists, and then we'll do a very quick poll, a quick commercial, and we'll close it out. So my last question to our panelists that I got is, we have lots of different roles on this call: international folks, alumni, host businesses, chambers of commerce. How can other stakeholders get involved in supporting the work that you do or what you wish you had experienced? And how can everybody make this process even stronger and better? And Collin, I'll invite you to start with that piece.
Yeah, I think it starts with just kind of, it starts with the agents and the critical role of, they're the first touch point for those students. So kind of preparing them for what the program entails. Then the sponsors are the bridge, ready to troubleshoot issues in real time, coordinate arrivals, make sure everything from scheduling interviews all the way through to arrival is fluid. And then, on Debbie and I's side, making sure that we're prepared, having those cultural exchange activities ready, having the housing ready, having, resources for our students when they're there. And then, some external stakeholders that, kind of get overlooked, can be, housing and staff supervisors. It can be park rangers for us are a big one. So, we notify when we have large groups of arrivals of our bridge students to the park rangers, as they are going to be the ones that are responding to emergencies, as well as, keeping our parks safe and making sure that the animals aren't interfering with work life and things like that. And another one is social security offices, giving a heads up to our social security office. Sometimes we have hundreds of students arriving in a week or a day, and the social security offices, obviously in our neck of the woods, can be very small. So keeping them up to date when we have those large arrivals, so that they know that we'll be bringing in large amounts of students so that they can prepare, is one that goes overlooked as well.
That's great. Debbie, how about you?
I'm not going to repeat any that Collin said because he did mention some of my points. But we also have developed a great relationship with Ocean County Tourism. So in New Jersey, we are located in Ocean County, and Ocean County Tourism has been wonderful to our J1 students. They provide that welcome bag, and in there, they give a whole packet on everything Ocean County has to offer. So, you can go visit the lighthouses, the other amusement parks, all the points of interest to go see that we haven't included on our website as well. And then, we add other things to the bag. But for the past 3 years, they have donated all these bags to all of our students, which is also great because they are reusable bags, and the state of New Jersey no longer has plastic bags. So we set our students up from the moment they arrive.
I love it. It's Earth Month. There you go.
Yeah.
Edwin, how about you?
Well, in my case, my university played a significant role in connecting J1 students with each other. I was also the president of the psychology club, and I used to host annual panels with experienced students to talk with freshmen who are about to go to the United States to candidly share our thoughts. And I think that was very, very, very important. University always supported that. They sometimes invited some J1 sponsors, local agencies who would come and talk to us. And more university involvement, even though universities don't deal with the J1 visa at all, I think is very helpful.
That's wonderful. And what I appreciate about each of your answers is that I think it really stresses why Capital exists, right? There's so many parts to this community that make these programs survive and thrive and grow. And that's really what Capital is all about, bringing all of those pieces together to share best practices like we were able to do today, to learn and to tell these amazing, powerful stories. So for everybody who is curious about Capital membership and isn't yet, I'll put again the link in the chat to our webinar this Thursday, April 17th, to learn more about it. And if you're already sold because you've seen the great work that we do through things like today, the very quick membership form is also available here in the chat. So I want to thank our speakers for all of their wonderful, wonderful insights. I'm so grateful to all of you. And I do have a very quick poll to just give us a sense of how we did. For folks who are in the Capital family or will soon be in the Capital family, please plan to join us April 30th. In about 2 weeks, we're talking about the alumni piece and how we can really build strong alumni chapters in different countries. Then on May 13th, we'll be talking about how BridgeUSA helps support U.S. national security interests and how you all can make the case for the tremendous power of these programs, particularly as it relates to U.S. interests. And then going forward, we're going to do a lot more best practices sharing on the cultural exchange piece, on the preparation piece, on all of these other elements, including marketing to our beloved Gen Zs, so that you all can find efficient and easy ways to help your work continue to grow and thrive. So thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you to all of our attendees. It's wonderful to have all of you here. And I look forward to seeing you at a future Capital webinar. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Do the poll.
Thank you.